I was born in suburban Boston, the youngest child of three, so three brothers in the family, third generation physician. So my grandfather was a general practitioner, my dad was a general surgeon, my older brother's a general surgeon, my uncle is an endocrinologist, my other uncle is an oral surgeon. So, I mean, there's a point where in the Gordon family, if you had any aptitude for math and science, it wasn't, are you going to be a physician, is, are you going to be a surgeon like your dad? So I ended up in obstetrics and gynecology, and then within that, found my way into reproductive endocrinology, and really decided that would be a great field to be in, an amazingly happy field and challenging field as well. Ended up at Duke for medical school, and in the first week of classes, I was speaking with one of my classmates, and he said, "What do you think about being here in Durham?" I said, "Oh, it seems nice, you know." I said, "What do you think?" He said, "Oh, it's great. You know, the weather's good, and you know, there's so many really attractive, smart women around." I said, "Really?" I said, "Like who?" He said, "Well, like my next door neighbor, you know, she's in the PhD program in engineering." I was like, "Oh, you know, are you going to ask her out?" And he said, "Well, probably not." I said, "Well, why don't you introduce her to me?" And so that's how I met Allison.
I grew up in rural North Carolina in a little town called Marshville that's about 25 miles southeast of Charlotte. And later on I went to undergraduate school at Clemson, so I'm a Clemson Tiger. And then after that we went to Duke. I went to Duke for graduate school, and the first week we were there I met my husband John, who was in med school there, and he was a Yankee. And he was sort of a secular Jew. And so it was a little bit of a culture clash, me coming in from my very Southern Christian background and meeting him.
She walked in the apartment, I said, "That's the girl I'm gonna marry, that's the girl for me." And it took only about 18 months of begging, and then she decided that that was okay with her too.
We got engaged after about a year, and were married about a year and a half after that. And then he over time became a Christian, and we've been growing together in our faith ever since then. It's been wonderful.
I came home this one day and she said, "You know, I'm gonna tell you something that you may not really want to hear." And I said, "Well, what is it that you want to say to me?" And I have no idea what she was gonna say. And she said, "I am just concerned that the way you're practicing is sort of generating blood money, and perhaps the things that we have been paid for with blood money, and I'm not sure this is a right path for you to be on professionally." And I was like, well, you know, sort of once my blood pressure came down, I said, "Well, you know, tell me what exactly, you know, you're talking about."
One of the bigger things that bothered me was the fact they were creating all these extra embryos, and they were all sitting there languishing, in my opinion, in a freezer. And I thought, in God's economy, they're all lives, and they're just as valuable in God's eyes as my life or your life or John's life. And I thought about, there's so much of fertility that is sort of where they've taken the sovereignty of God out of it, because sometimes the embryo that gets put back is just the one that happens to look the most advanced at that particular stage, or the one that's closest to the front of the freezer to the embryologist. And I think a life and the creation of life should not be based on convenience in man's eyes. And so that bothered me a lot, that all those embryos were languishing and people didn't know what to do with them. And I thought each one of them is a unique human being, and they're not being given an opportunity.
With that impetus, I sort of said, well, okay, you know, let me think about this from a Christian standpoint in terms of the ethics of what we do, and found myself on the Christian Medical and Dental Association website and found my way to Dr. Keenan. And so I just picked up the phone and I called Jeff, and I just left a message saying, "This is John Gordon. I'm a reproductive endocrinologist in Washington, D.C. And I'd just like to talk to you about some of the ethical dilemmas that we face. I'm curious as to how you navigate that as a Christian, and how do you wrestle with it." And Jeff called me back that same day, and he said, "Well, before we get into it, John, I just want to know, you know, did you see our ad?" And I was like, "No." And he said, "Well, did you get our email?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, did you get the flyer?" I said, "No, I don't know what you're talking about. I found you on the Christian Medical and Dental Association website." And he said, "Well, you should come here to Knoxville and join me and just work here and move to Knoxville. I said, yeah, I literally just calling to talk to you about some of the ethical dilemmas. I'm, co-owner of a practice here in Washington. I've been here 20 years. I was just calling to talk about some of these ethical issues. I really wasn't looking for a job change. He said, well, you need to think about it. You need to think about doing something different. So that night, Allison and I were dropping our youngest daughter, Susanna, off up in Rockville, Maryland at an event. And I said, I just had an interesting phone call today. I just want to talk to you about it. Allison said, well, what's going on? I said, well, I just called this guy and he called me back and he's in Knoxville and he thinks that I should go there. And she just started crying. She said, I want to go. I want to go to Knoxville. And I said, well, I was crying too at that point. I said, well, I don't know anything about Knoxville. She said, I don't care. That's where we should go. We should go to Knoxville.
I'm just so grateful that John's going to have this opportunity here at this stage of his career, and that we're going to have this opportunity as a family to join this. It's really sort of a mission, and to take care of these donated embryos and to find loving families for them. And I am so excited about being a part of it. And we're just ready for this. After being where we were and John practicing the way that he practiced there, we're just ready for this. It seems redemptive, honestly. It's like an opportunity for redemption, and I'm looking forward to becoming part of the community here and raising our daughter here. And I'm a Southerner by birth, and I was glad to get back south. And so it's all good in my view.
Well, I just want to thank them for allowing me to be part of their journey, and just for those families who are willing to donate embryos, just to commend them for making a very difficult decision, and yet an amazingly life-affirming decision. And for those couples who are willing to adopt embryos, to say thank you for being there, for these couples who are wanting to donate, and for the embryos themselves. And to the children who are born from that, to say, your beginnings are unique, and you are so valued that a couple made a very difficult decision and another couple was willing to open their arms and bring you into their family. And that's an incredible story to start your life with, that type of story. So I'm excited to be part of it, to work with Jeff, Keenan, and really continue to work the NEDC. And just as I said, I think it's going to be a wonderful, after being on the other side of sort of being part of the problem of creating the extra embryos, to really try to be on some level part of the solution is, to me, incredibly gratifying. So thank you for allowing me to be there and be part of it.